Hello everyone, my name is Djukic. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Resources Safety and Health Queensland, and I'm going to give you an update about our policy program. About a year or so ago, RSHQ commenced work on developing potential amendments to Queensland's Resources Safety and Health legislation, which late last year saw the release of a consultation regulatory impact statement called Facilitating High Reliability Organisation Behaviours in Queensland's Resources Sector and Modernising Regulatory Enforcement. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially it's about growing HRO or High Reliability Organisational Behaviours, which is something you should have heard about by now in the industry, and ensuring our legislation continues to evolve as industry evolves. Here I'll give you an update on that process, touching on where we've been to date and what we've learned, what's happening now, and what you can expect next and over the rest of this term of government. As I just mentioned, late last year the government released a package of proposals for consultation in a regulatory impact statement, which was open for a 60-day period that closed at the end of November. A 60-day consultation period is unusual for a regulatory impact statement. It's about double the standard timeframe. But we wanted to give you ample opportunity to consider the proposals and assess what they mean for your operations and to ask us any questions you may have had. Over the consultation period, we met with representative bodies and had kept an open invitation to anyone who wanted to meet with us to discuss the proposals, which some of you took up. We also had 2 open sessions open to anyone who wanted to come in Mackay and Townsville to discuss the proposals. At the end of the consultation period, we received about 40 submissions from peak bodies, unions, individual companies, workers and community members. So far from this process has told us a few things. 1, you're all keen to see draft legislation. That's understandable because it's the ultimate product we'll all be working to. We also identified there is, in some areas, a lack of experience or understanding about the consultation process. Developing legislation isn't simply about writing words on a page, and consultation isn't simply putting proposals to a popular vote. It's about framing a problem and determining whether there needs to be a legislative solution and understanding the impacts of any potential legislation for operations. Unfortunately, some of the responses we received simply indicated whether or not a proposal was supported without providing much further insight. There's not a lot we can do with that information. That said, we did receive some thoughtful submissions which raised constructive issues to be addressed in the drafting process. We also recognise there is much learning to be done across the sector and within the regulator about what HRO means and what this proposed legislation means for HRO. We received some submissions and heard some comments that the proposed legislation is concerned with setting criteria for HRO or about regulating HRO. That's not the case. Rather, the proposals are intended to support or be consistent with HRO behaviours to assist industry to improve its approaches to risk management. RSHQ has been reviewing the responses received on behalf of government, and there are of course divergent views on some proposals that were outlined in the RIS. The result is there are some proposals contained in the CRIS which may not be taken forward in the way originally proposed. Once those issues are worked through, they will form a decision regulatory impact statement, which will be put to government for approval. Once approved by government, that decision RIS becomes government's statement of the policy it intends to take forward as legislation. We anticipate that the decision RIS will be approved and released before the end of the financial year. So what comes next in the process? After the release of the decision regulatory impact statement has occurred, the advisory committees may decide to provide advice to the Minister about the safety and health implications of the proposals. Parliamentary Council will draft legislation or a bill for release and comment and refinement as necessary. It's important to note drafting legislation is the responsibility of parliamentary drafters, not RSHQ, not industry, nor other representative bodies. Once Parliamentary Council has drafted a bill, the draft bill will be released for public comment. The purpose of the consultation draft is not to debate the policy proposals again, As I said, they will have been decided by then with the release of the decision regulatory impact statement. The purpose is to test whether the legislation as drafted achieves the intent as outlined in the Decision Regulatory Impact Statement. Again, the question for you to ask yourself is what it means for your operations and what challenges you might see to its implementation. Once consultation and any required refinements identified through consultation have been finalised, the bill will be introduced into Parliament and then referred to a parliamentary committee for an inquiry. In conducting its inquiry, the committee will seek submissions on the bill. Once its inquiry is finalised, the committee will make recommendations about the bill, which will be referred back to the Parliament for debate, and all going well, passage. This will be followed by commencement, subject of course to any transitional provisions in the legislation. So to sum up, consultation on the RIS has now closed. Currently, RSHQ on behalf of government is preparing a Decision Regulatory Impact Statement for government's consideration, which we anticipate will be approved and released in the first half of this year. Following release of the Decision Regulatory Impact Statement, Parliamentary Council will draft a bill, which we anticipate will be released for public consultation in the second half of the year. Following finalisation of the drafting, the bill will be introduced into the Parliament, then referred to a committee for inquiry. Here again, you'll have the opportunity to make submissions about the bill. Following the inquiry, the bill will be returned to the Parliament for passage. We can't guarantee the time of this, but anticipate it will be sometime in 2024. And of course, after passage and commencement, it will be our joint responsibility, the regulator, industry, and unions, to implement the legislation. Thanks for your time today, and please don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any queries.